It's always a great pleasure to have you join us on the program Healthy Living with yours sincerely, Oluije Ifokai. Now, today on Healthy Living, we'll be looking at World No Tobacco Day. I had to make an emphasis on that, yes. World No Tobacco Day. It's been held every 31st of May, yes, and the WHO decided to say, yes, this is something we need to focus on. Now, it will please you to know that an estimated 37 million children aged 13 to 15 years worldwide use tobacco in many countries. Now, the rate of e-cigarette use among young people exceed that of adults. Marketing content promoting e-cigarettes and narcotics products has been viewed over 3.4 billion times on social media platforms. Now, an estimated number of 37 million people, children, aged from 13 to 15, that is underaged. Dr. Irabo, looking at the estimates, 13 to 15 years, they are underage children. They're not even up to 18 years. But first off, we want to know the meaning of tobacco. And the reason why the World Health Organization decided to say this year it's World No Tobacco Day. So first off, what is tobacco?
Thank you very much, Ms. Oleje. Tobacco smoking is an age-long practice of burning tobacco and ingesting or inhaling the smoke. So it's as old as man. It's an age-long practice. And what does that tell us? It shows that the measures which we are going to employ in tackling this particular, epidemic is something that we need to take very serious. Tobacco smoking is as long as started since like 5,000 to 3,000 before Christ, in the days of the Babylonians. They used to burn tobacco as incense during the shamanistic rituals by the shamans. And also the Chinese and Indian also burned tobacco. But not until 17th century, in the 1800 thereabouts, the Europeans, that's the European colonists, introduced tobacco into Eurasia. That's the continents of Europe and Asia. And during that, through the slave routes and all of that. But the European people rejected tobacco smoking. They rejected that practice, but after some time, it was accepted as a norm in the society. But not until 1920, when German scientists, they first linked tobacco to cancer. So that was when the first ever campaign against tobacco actually started. But however, during the fall of Nazi Germany, after the Second World War, that campaign was thwarted. But in the 50s, early 1950s, British researchers actually confirmed that tobacco was actually linked to cancers, and as such, the broadcast against tobacco and its products, was launched. But not until 1987, when all members of the World Health Organization decided to come together to say, let's mark this World No Tobacco Day. So let's actually take it very serious because from the statistics, about 1.3 billion of world population smoke tobacco. It's interesting to note that from the about 8.2 billion world population, so that's about 15% of world population smoke tobacco. So it's a pandemic.
Now, in as much as there is a tag, smokers are liable to die young, we're still seeing the increasing rate of tobacco smokers. Now, in all of this, we want to know the smoking of tobacco and the risk factors in all of this, the ailments that one can come down with when one is initiated, rather, or when one is involved in all of this.
Okay, tobacco smoking, as it were, there are some risk factors, like those persons who smoke tobacco. For instance, if they have parents who smoke tobacco, they are at risk of, getting that habit from their parents. Then peer influence, from peer influence and, from trusted allies. Let's say you have a brother or a sister who smoke tobacco and you love the person so much, so you find everything that the person do, you find them right and you want to, imitate them. So And those are the risk factors for, smoking tobacco. But the problem with tobacco is that tobacco smoking, if you look at, the pack of cigarettes, you see that tobacco contains the psychostimulant, which is a psychoactive substance called nicotine. And also, and if you check, you see that it's between 0.9 to 1 milligram in the tobacco. But however, there are other constituents in a tobacco smoke, and that will include carbon monoxide as well as tar, and both of them about 10 milligrams. So you can see that the psychoactive stimulant that make people always crave for tobacco, you understand, is just a milligram. Then why those other constituents like tar, which are very deleterious to the health, as well as carbon monoxide, you understand, they're about 10 milligrams. So, and the problem is that after long use of tobacco, the health implication cannot be overemphasized.
Okay.
Vis-a-vis stroke, can cause stroke, can cause heart-related problems, as well as lung problems. For we as pulmonologists, we are very much worried because when one smokes tobacco, it usually goes through the lungs, where it is inhaled. While some of them are absorbed from the mouth, most of them are absorbed from the lungs. And a lot of damages it causes to the lungs can range all the way from lung cancer to, tuberculosis, to idiopathic pulmonary fibrosis, chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, emphysema, and you can name them. So for us as pulmonologists, we are very much worried, about tobacco smoking.
All right, so we still find some persons, they know all of this, and they are still persistent in what they know, the practice of smoking tobacco. So how, or some others, they will say, I want to stop it, but I don't know how to. Now, first off, let's start with the ones that know the side effects, the bad side effects of all of this, and they are still insistent on doing the same thing they are doing. So what is the long-term implication in all of this?
Yes, tobacco smoking, like I said, there's a psychostimulant in tobacco, which is nicotine. And nicotine does a lot of magic.
Yeah.
What does it do? It stimulates nerve endings. And when it stimulates nerve endings, there's what we call neurotransmitters, like acetylcholine. They are being released from those nerve endings. And apart from, stimulating those nerve endings, which can cause addiction, it also stimulates some happy hormones in the system, like dopamine, as well as, endorphins. And these are happy hormones. And what happens when you take nicotine?
Happy hormones.
Yes, they are happy hormones. They are pleasure hormones. You can call them happy hormones or pleasure hormones. And when these hormones are released, so what happens is that there is increased alertness, mental alertness, increased heart rate. So the person likes that feeling. So, and that's one thing.
So in as much as the preaching, the person gets enough education as regards this, that person does not even want to know. With
that feeling, which is the addiction that goes with nicotine, the person will always crave nicotine. And so if we want to go about this, first of all, tobacco smoking is not something you just want to come out on air and just tell people stop smoking. So you can see that even
it's not something one can get rid of overnight.
It's not overnight. You can't do that. A whole lot of measures have to be put in place if we really want to achieve reasonable results.
Okay, now you talked about the second-hand smokers. Now, how do they get exposed in all of this, especially children and pregnant women? So what are the risk factors?
Okay, second-hand smokers, they're also called passive smokers, or what we call environmental tobacco smoking. So these persons, they don't smoke tobacco, but they inhale the smoke that comes out from the smoker. But however, they also are the same risk of developing health conditions that the main smoker.
Wow.
Yes, they also have the same risk. So that's why you see that there is a national legislation on tobacco smoking in Nigeria, which was enacted 2015, which is National Tobacco Control Act. And this is one of those things that that act was meant to check, to ensure that people don't blow tobacco smoke in public places, which is of public health concern. Tobacco smoking was banned in public places in Nigeria 2015, but I don't know if that law, that law is being held sacrosanct, because you see that people still smoke.
Yes. There are some places you go to, when just passing by, you get to inhale some of these things.
Yeah,
yes,
exactly.
Okay, now let's look at the theme, unmasking the appeal, exposing industry tactics on tobacco and narcotic products. Okay, so.
Okay, you see, when we say unmasking the appeal, so the main problem here is with the production of this tobacco.
So
And
they are brands.
Yes, the brands. And most of these brands, they are flavored. And they flavor them using chocolates, mints, mints, as well as fruits.
Okay.
Yeah, as well as fruits. So the essence is to make tobacco smoking palatable to the smoker. And no matter how palatable,
it's still endangering the person's life.
It even makes the person smoke. Like you see, like for hookah, which is shisha. For shisha, it's usually fruit flavored, and also mixed with liquid. That liquid and the fruit does not stop the effect. In short, smoking shisha, maybe a pot of shisha is equivalent to smoking 100 sticks of cigarettes. But most persons will think because shisha is flavored and all of that, so shisha is safer because they just make it palatable for you. But the health implication,
it's enormous.
It's enormous. So the problem is that most of these things are flavored, and as such, with good legislation, with governments being serious about tobacco, because the problem is that most persons in the society smoke tobacco. Like I told you, can see the statistics. So it cuts across all sex and gender, including male and female. So about 11% of female world population smoke tobacco. Then while for males, about 44 to 48% thereabout smoke tobacco.
Okay. Now, the question is, are there resources available to help these tobacco smokers quit?
Of course, different companies, they try to make, some products available to actually, because not really help tobacco smokers to quit, but however, to reduce the deleterious effect that tobacco has, on the, health of the individual. So what does that mean? It means, trying to take away the tar aspect of it, then the carbon monoxide, which are also constituents of that's the smoke aspect, but giving the person nicotine. But these ones, they have their own challenges. Like for the e-cigarettes, which has nicotine, that same e-cigarette has some other chemical components, saturated, that they used to saturate the e-cigarette. But however, these components have deleterious effect on the lungs. Like diacetyl, which is one of the products of those e-cigarettes, can cause what we call bronchiolitis obliterans, popcorn lungs. It's a very rare lung disease. So you can see why trying to help the individual take the e-cigarette, you are causing more harm and all of that. So for such patients, that person may become breathless all their lives and all of that. So they've tried to make even nicotine gums, nicotine patch. But however, for us as pulmonologists, our advice is that total tobacco cessation. Total tobacco cessation. And we can actually do this, by actually linking, these persons to support groups. We can create a support group. The government, if the government can take it seriously, from Ministry of Health, can create a support group, that bring all tobacco smokers together. Sometimes a little love can help.
Sure.
Yes, a little love can help.
Some persons even say, oh, it's out of frustration and they started smoking.
Exactly. So when you bring them together, you give them educational pamphlets to know about tobacco smoking. So it's not just telling them, they read about it. You encourage them.
Follow up.
So you can make provision, financial provision for that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, now, in your own little way, what have you been able to do? When I mean you as a body, we are in the urban area. Now, talking about the rural area, what have you been able to do to make sure that this information goes down to the root?
Okay, you see, that's exactly what we are doing now. So this is one of the things we planned as pulmonologists to help our people, disseminate information, which is actually the essence of the World No Tobacco Day. So it's to bring to the foreknowledge of our people, the tobacco smoking as an epidemic, and the dangers it poses to our health, and also on how to curb the menace in the society. So also, I think the Ministry of Health, the Federal Ministry of Health, and the State Ministry of Health, as well as the local government chairman, government house, they can come together. They work with health professionals to do all these. It's not an easy task. Like I told you, tobacco smoking is an age-long disease. But one thing that can actually help is good legislation. Good legislation. And this happened in San Francisco, in the United States of America, when about 68.5% of legislative votes outlawed flavored tobacco. But however, R.J. Reynolds, who is one of the biggest tobacco manufacturing company in the U.S., tried to block this legislation by, spending about $12 million on that. Then also, in same San Francisco, some years ago, e-cigarettes was also outlawed. Then Juul Company, which is the company that produced e-cigarettes, spent about $18.3 million or so to thwart this legislation. So there are a lot of big wigs behind tobacco.
Yeah.
And, in Virginia also, it helped their economy at the time because tobacco brings a lot of, revenue. So that's why that's one big reason it's also difficult to stop tobacco because it brings a lot of revenue. So, but with high taxes on tobacco companies, we can actually checkmate the number of tobacco that are coming. Then also the law of Nigeria, the National Tobacco Control Act, says that if anyone is caught smoking in public places, person can be fined with not less than 50,000 naira.
I'm not sure that law is viable right now because a lot of places you go to, you find smokers everywhere, and they just pop it the way they want to. Exactly. So I'm sure if this, laws are being governed and seen through, I'm very sure it will bring a reduction in the number of persons that are also smoking. And even the prices, if the prices can also go up, I'm sure the reduction will be great. All right, so quickly now, your advice to individuals, to community, and also to those persons that they have these people within them, the family members, what are their duties?
Okay, I would say that, tobacco smoking, like I will always say, is an age-long, imagine something that started in the days of the Babylonians, even before Christ, our Lord and personal Savior. So for such, the practice is older than our forefathers.
Yeah, true.
So we must be sincere in tackling this menace. So one of the things, one of my advice I will give to smokers is that, there are benefits from nicotine, which you enjoy so much from the tobacco smoking, but the risk from tobacco smoking outweighs the benefits.
Yes.
So if the risk outweighs the benefits, so tobacco smoking is one of the cause of preventable deaths. You understand? So smoking tobacco is like shortening your lifespan. Yeah, it's like shortening your lifespan. So, and the Bible says that that we may have life and have it more abundantly, and a living dog is better than a dead lion. So it's better we preserve our health, we preserve our life. No tobacco. That is it. No tobacco. No tobacco.
Yes. World No Tobacco Day. So it's a no to tobacco smoking.
Yes, exactly.
All right. It has been an exciting time today with Dr. Henry. Yes, today on World No Tobacco Day. Yes, Dr. Ernest Irabo, and he is the Senior Registrar Respiratory Unit, University of Benin Teaching Hospital. We say a very big thank you to you for, giving us your own side of, about the World No Tobacco Day. Thank you so much for taking our time to be here with us. So we'll be seeing you again next week for another exciting time. Please do take good care of your health. Health is wealth. Till then, do have yourself a blessed day. Bye for now.